It says that we are live. We should be live. Hopefully we're live. All right. What's up, everybody? Joshua Smith here with my good friend Jim Brown. This is our first time utilizing this live streaming software. So I believe that we're live. Hopefully we are. But anyway, guys, we're going to jump on into it. So this is our first of many to come, as I mentioned, with the live session, as well as with the launch of the Forj Life podcast. And our intention with this podcast is with Forj Life and with this movement of this podcast is, to talk about peak performance. The reason of the name Forj and Forj Life is, think about forging a piece of steel. You take this piece of metal, and through heat, through hammering it and so forth, you can forge it into an amazing weapon, that you can go out there and utilize. And, if we look at ourselves in that same manner with our body, with our mental capacity and so forth, you can forge yourself into becoming whatever it is that you want to become. And so with that, and again, we're going to have a lot of things that we cover going forward in the future with a lot of these different podcasts and bringing all the guests and so forth. But just talking again, anything and everything peak performance and how to go out there and make ourselves the best versions of ourselves. So wanted to kick this one off today, guys, with mental peak performance. And then things that you can do intentionally to increase your mental focus. We're going to talk about how food impacts your focus and things that you can do when it comes to diet to increase focus, workouts, supplements, and then different actions that you can take. So again, got my good friend Jim Brown here. For Jim, for those of that are watching, tuning in here, that this might be their first experience with you, man. Give a little bit of your background, man, when it comes to health, fitness, and what got you into being so intentional with operating personally with your peak performance.
Well, I wanted to become a bodybuilder when I was 13 years old and started down that journey then. I've been lifting all my life. I was a competitive bodybuilder for 15 years and still kind of live like one, I guess. But that started the passion in that arena. And from there, I've worked in the nutrition industry for almost a decade before getting a real corporate job. And it's been one of my passions for 35, 36 years now. So, as far as diet modalities, tried them all, coached a million people on them, not a million, but I've coached a lot of people from a lot of different walks of life. And so, I have a different type of approach than a lot of people who are tribal in just one methodology that they subscribe to. So, I think it makes me pretty well-rounded in the space. A lot of guys get caught up in, certain things that work for them once or work for their clients, but I've had the experience to work with a lot of different people, and that's been great. As far as my mental performance and peak performance, I'm still in what I would call the peak of my career and earning highest capacity to earn money before, get too old to work or retire or do whatever. So it's important to me more than ever. And this has been, last 4 or 5 years, it's been essential for me to be at my top performance when needed. And that's, one, having the physicality to work and generate money, work long hours when I have to. And mentally, have to stay on top of your game. I'm in a very competitive area that I work in, not to mention, what we do on the side, our nutritional space and trying to help people and coach people. It's something that I've kept up on, and I have a passion for and continue wanting to help people and get people to be at their best and operate at their full potential.
Yeah. Love it, man. Love it, dude. Yeah. It's in the business world, at least, man, and I'm sure it's the same for all industries, but it's, I get hit up all the time and I went down this journey too for some time, but it's, when people are looking to improve and so forth, they're always looking for that new business tool. They're always looking for that, new, I don't know, magic. I don't want to say magic pill, but that new script, that new system, that new thing that's going to enhance them and take them to the next level. And I'm not saying that those things are important, but the secret weapon really is, you. At the end of the day, it's how much intentional time, man, are you devoting to operating at the best version of yourself, making sure that you have optimal energy and that you are able to, think more strategically. You are less distracted than your competitors, and so forth. And today, man, the world that we live in, it's more distracted. There's more distractions than any other time. If you look at, I'm just social media as an example, man. And you got these multi-billion-dollar companies, dude, that have the most brilliant, human psychologists and human behavior psychologists, and the most brilliant minds working on ways to keep us glued, to this damn thing, and it creates those distractions, breaks that mental focus. And it's one of these battles, man. If we're not intentional with it, it's so easy to go out there and lose that battle. And if any of you guys are watching this and you have questions as we jump in here, I see Mike Sherrard said that vibe board looking sexy as fuck. Thanks, dude. Yeah, man. I've those of you that don't know, Mike and I have been jamming on the side on these vibe boards, but essentially these are like 55-inch Android tablets, man, that you can do a lot with. And going through an office remodel right now, so I actually don't even have a door. So I try to just put something. I got just a blank office here. Remodel will be done in about a couple weeks. So I had to throw something so it didn't look too ghetto. But anyway, as you guys have questions or if you have tips, whatever things that are working for you to help keep yourself operating at your peak mental state and so forth, we'd love to hear them. So let's first lead into with food, man. A lot of people don't understand how food really impacts them, and we're not necessarily breaking down specific diets for specific goals that people have, but how does food, and what's your experience been with the impact of food negatively and positively when it comes to, I don't know, like eliminating brain fog, allowing you to think clearly, having that energy to operate at your physical and peak mental performance?
I think it's everything, man. For me, especially not just physically, but mentally, food is everything. And, I see myself and a lot of people, when you stray from that and you're not eating optimally or not eating in such a manner that your body's going to operate at, even 70% of what it's capable of, you tend to fall on the crutch of something else, right? And that's usually stimulants. That could be caffeine all the way up to, amphetamines to try to keep up. And, maybe you're at a, corporate training, or you're at something where you're trying to digest a huge amount of new information. And, if your diet's off, or you don't have a diet, you don't control your diet, maybe you're overweight, maybe you're eating in an excess of caloric intake, and your body's just trying to deal with that. And you're trying to be at your peak mental capacity. And let's face it, I mean, there's a physicality to that too. There's a physicality to putting out mentally. I mean, it's exhausting. Food for me is probably the most important factor in this, other than, making sure that you take rest periods. And I'm not one of those, you have to sleep 8 hours a day guy. I mean, this is a real world, but you have to be you have to get enough rest that's impactful. But food to me is the most important factor of all of this.
Yeah. And those of you guys that, again, if this is your first experience with Jim, Jim's my mentor in this space, man, when it comes to anything health, fitness, diet, supplementation, anything to do with any of that. I mean, Jim's just such a brilliant mind with this stuff. And this is, my go-to guy. And I know I get blown up, man, by people asking, certain health and fitness questions. I'm like, I don't know. I gotta go ask Jim, man. So, as you guys have these questions for him, just pump these in. When it comes to food though, and with it being so important, is it, I mean, are there kind of best practices that apply to everybody, or, okay, I know me and my body to an extent of, and this just takes time of journaling and, whatever, and paying attention, which, you've taught me to level up to the next level through our relationship. But it's been, okay, when I eat this food, well, how do I feel an hour later, 2 hours later? I start journaling those. So like, I know, and I don't know if it's with how my insulin levels are, or, or my insulin sensitivity, or because I used to be morbidly obese, or I'm sure everybody maybe could be potentially impacted differently. But like, dude, if I have a high carb meal, bread or pasta at lunch, man, like it impacts my performance for the rest of the day. Are there certain, things that kind of apply to everybody when it comes to food, and again, that mental focus and overall, not just mental focus, but just overall energy, or is it just kind of every person reacts differently, and they just kind of need to figure out what that flow is for them.
Well, this is a huge discussion here. So let me start with this. If your body's like a machine, right? And let's just take your car for a really bad analogy, but the only one I can come up with right now. Let's take your car, and the day that you bought it, everything works great. It works perfect. Maybe it's fast. It feels good on the road. And then let's load it down with 300 pounds on the roof and see how it drives and see how it performs. And I'm going to relate that to your body. If you're overweight, or if you're carrying extra fat, if you're, a little chubby and puffy, your body doesn't operate at the capacity that it could, and you're probably eating in a caloric excess. And so, if I was just going to make a generalization, I would say that over the food choices, it's overeating. So, one, if you overeat, I believe that bogs you down and makes you feel bad. I do. If you undereat, I think it makes you feel better, and you're able to mentally, stay relevant, or keep up and get through the day. And that thing where you eat a lot of carbs, or you have a heavy lunch and people slow down, typically that's not just carbs. That's an excess of calories with carbs and fat. One of the things that if you ask nine out of 10 people, hey, name a bad carb, they'll go, oh, donuts, cake. It's not plain white rice, or just a carbohydrate source. And so I think it's when you get hit with an abundance of calories, that slows you down. And so overall recommendation would be to, I want everybody to be a little bit leaner, and the leaner you are, the better that your body's going to operate. And if you're leaner and you had to work to get there, on your way to getting there, you're going to identify which foods work best in you, and the things that you mentioned before. You're going to identify which foods work well for your body and tend to focus on those. And then not eat in a caloric excess. You're going to have to be in a deficit, or around maintenance to maintain that once you get to a body fat level that you feel comfortable at. And if you stay there, and if you operate in that range, then I think overall you're going to have better physicality, better physical performance with it, and definitely better mental performance with it.
Yeah. How does water impact and come into play? If we were to throw that into food or diet, when it comes to energy and mental performance, versus, I don't know, slamming down soda or diet soda throughout the day, or other things does water play an importance or any kind of a role in your mental capacity?
Yeah. If you're dehydrated, it incapacitates you massively, physically and mentally. And so I don't know if you remember, but one of the things, I'm not sure if we ever had you doing this, but one of the best things that you can do is drink a glass of water when you first get up. You can take a little bit further and put a little bit of citric acid in there, a little lime juice or lemon juice, and a tablespoon or a teaspoon of salt, depending on how much water you down. But I do a pint of water, a little bit of lime juice, and some salt first thing in the morning, just to ensure that I have a chance of being semi-hydrated or on my way to being hydrated when I start the day, and especially before I'm going to work out. Drinking caffeine's a natural diuretic. And so if you start your day with coffee, that's okay. You still have water, but you have some catching up to do. And the first time that you feel thirsty, you're already slightly dehydrated. So.
Yeah. Love it. So since we're on the kind of conversation of food and how it perfects performance and mental performance, one thing that is can have an impact on this is fasting, and there's a lot out there on fasting. There's a lot of, I don't want to say it's new, I don't want to call it a fad by any means, but it's a thing that you see a lot of, and you're seeing a lot more of it. And Pierre just asked a question on this. This is my first time using this Restream, so let me see if I can do this. All right, so here's Pierre's question. If you can see that, is upper and lower split 6 days a week too intense for a fast? Oh wait, recovery. I guess that's not. I thought it was fasting.
That's a workout question.
Yeah, we'll get to working out here. Sorry about that. Sorry about that, Pierre. I thought it was for fasting, dude. But then but because I guess we're on that conversation now. Does when I've got some huge projects, man, where I'm going to be stuck behind a computer for the next, 18 hours a day for the next 3-4 days to just, get a new, whatever it may be, on those days, man, like I'll increase my fasting levels. And I do, maybe it's psychological, I don't know, but I do feel when I am in a fasted state, I do have a better mental focus. Is there something to that? Is there truth to that? Can that be powerful to help people, when it comes to gaining more mental clarity and mental focus?
Right. Some people have some theories that I've heard about that being an evolutionary tool, something that increases focus when you're in ketosis or mild ketosis, which would be, a state of fasting if you fast long enough. And that, we could go down the evolutionary biology route and what that may have played to our ancestors. But I think that's a tool, and I think that it's a valuable tool, and a lot of people seem to like it. I definitely, I would say that I'm in a very good mental state, very clear-headed, very fresh when I'm fasting. If I'm in a mild state of ketosis, meaning my body's burning some ketones rather than glucose, or a combination of both, but slight ketosis, like you would be if you've fasted for, some people 8 to 16 hours. You're going to be in you're going to have trace ketones running around in your bloodstream, and that would be a fuel source for your brain, which some people think is kind of helps you operate at a higher level. I've taken that to the extreme of going to a fasted state and then applying ketone esters after that, which is like an influx of ketones in your bloodstream, and it kind of cheats. It's like a cheat code to get you in a higher state of ketosis, and that is probably the highest mental state that I've been in without some type of drug induced mental state. So overall, maybe too much info, but yeah, I think fasting is a great way to get in. If you wanted to start your day out like that, or like you said, you have a project that you're working on, to be in that state, because most people feel very clear-headed on it.
Yeah. Do you recommend it to? When we kind of led this off of, look, just having lower body fat and being leaner is going to help with mental peak performance and physical peak performance. Do you utilize or recommend fasting to help get there? Meaning, I don't know. Let's just say I'm weight training heavily and I'm out to work out in the mornings with my schedule, so maybe not fast Monday through Friday, but then on the weekends I do fast. Is that something that you recommend to incorporate on that path to getting lean?
That's a tool. That's one of the ways that you can do it. One of the books that we put out was that metabolic blowtorch diet, and that was a fasting routine. For me and what I do, it's not as useful. I think when you're carrying what I would like to say is above average amount of muscle mass, I think it becomes very hard and difficult. However, if you're not in the same position that I am, or trying to do what I do with my body, you're just kind of a more normal guy, or you have a normal amount of muscle mass, and you want to get leaner, or this is your first shot at taking a diet, or trying to get lean, fasting is a very great tool. I think that essentially the best thing you can do, especially if you don't have control of your diet and control of food, and food kind of rules you instead of the other way around, you fasting is one of the best ways to teach you that being hungry is okay, and that you can beat it mentally. A lot of people, it's kind of sad to say, but a lot of people, especially in our society, man, they are hungry. The second that they feel a hunger pain, they start to eat. And I think that's a recipe for disaster. But yeah, fasting is a great way, but there's nothing really, I don't think there's anything really magical about it, other than it's helping you get into a caloric deficit. And you possibly going to be in a higher mental state while you're fasted. So
yeah,
it's a good tool.
I remember when I first started fasting, I reached out to him like, dude, is there anything I can do to get through these hunger pains? Any hacks? And you're just like, no, dude, you just gotta suck it up and get through it, man. But but eventually your body adapts, dude. You do get used to it, So
yeah.
All right, so we do have a couple questions on fasting that we'll pull up now and hit on, and then we'll move into working out, and then we'll talk about supplements, and then intentional actions that we can take to increase mental peak performance. So from Tom here, trying fasting 16 is that supposed to be 8,
16? A 16-8 schedule. Yeah.
Okay.
So if you'd be eating during the 8 hours and fasting 16, should you work out during the eating or fasting period? Well, it really depends, Tom. And I apologize if you don't know me very well, but when you guys ask questions like this, it's always going to be depends, because I don't like to give yes or no question, definitive answers without really reviewing all the details of your case. However, if you're a guy that's probably a little bit higher body fat and you're trying to lose fat, that's your priority over gaining muscle, then I would say, yeah, you can work out fasted and that's going to be fine. If you're a guy like me in my situation where I'm older, I'm trying to hold on to the muscle that I have very dearly and I'm pretty lean already, I never work out fasted. It affects me, very negatively, other than maybe a quick cardio session. So it really depends. And overall, unless you're at the high end of the, you're an outlier for whatever reason, I don't think it's going to make that big of a difference. But I would recommend that as soon as you finish your workout, within a couple hours, I would probably say right after should be that opening of your eating window. But overall, I don't really think it matters, man.
Awesome. All right. Well, we got another question here while we're on this topic from Diana on how many hours in regards to the fasting. I know that, at least I shouldn't say I know that. I think I've heard you to say in the past, women maybe, and I may have misheard this, but maybe women shouldn't quite fast as long, or maybe not as recommended as men, if there is a difference in that fasting window.
Well, again, it depends. It depends on what your goal is from fasting. If it is to get in that mental state where your body is producing a little bit more ketones and you're kind of using that as a preferred fuel source at that time, or at least it's available to be a fuel source over high glucose. Females have smaller livers, so we find that they get into that slight trace ketosis a little bit sooner than men. They typically have less glycogen, less glucose floating around, relatively speaking. So, probably anything over an 8-hour fast, you should be able to have, a little bit of ketones floating around, a little bit of a heightened mental state. But if you do 16, maybe it's going to be more. I don't know. It's going to be hard to answer that. Whatever you decide to do, you can test it, so that would be the real answer. If you fast 8 hours and you feel great after that, and then you eat a small breakfast, it doesn't crash you out. That might be the strategy. If not, try to stretch it out, and you don't have to shoot for 16 the next day. You can do 8, 10, 12, kind of step it up and see how your body handles it. If you start to get shaky and feel like you have low blood sugar, feeling weak, maybe, possibly a little lightheaded, then I would go ahead and eat and break your fast, and then just gradually try to stretch that out and increase it to get up, a higher number count.
Yeah,
if that makes sense.
Yeah, and then she has a follow-up question here as well on does multivitamins break your fast? Because I know that there's kind of a fine line of maybe what's allowed, what's not allowed, even from supplements that can break the fast. So, what's your response to that, and any other things that they should be careful of that if they are fasting that could break that fast?
Technically, anything with a calorie is going to break your fast. So could a vitamin? Technically, yes, but in reality, no. However, I would wait and take the vitamins, minerals, herbs with, not minerals, but I would take vitamins and herbs with food. Some people get a little nauseous depending on what your vitamin is, if there's iron in it, so on and so forth. You can't take a mineral tablet and you can't take electrolytes without risk of that. Most people won't have any negative effects from taking like a high sodium supplement or an electrolyte drink while you're fasting. But really, if you have something with 2 or 3 calories in it, it's like an electrolyte drink. It doesn't really matter. But technically, yes, anything with a calorie breaks fast.
Yeah, awesome. So then, when it comes to mental peak performance, when it comes to diet, just to sum this up before we move into the other topics. And I'll just go off of, what seemed to work best for me and then get your 2 cents on it. But it was, again, and I said this earlier, but just paying attention, just getting out your journal. And, okay, obviously I'm paying attention to, I'm looking at the aesthetics and, the goals that I have, but that's not so much on the topic of today. It's, how diet impacts that mental peak performance. And, it's been, again, just paying attention, just having that awareness of, okay, I eat this. How do I feel an hour later, 2 hours later, 3 hours later, journaling those, noting those, right. And then just kind of having awareness of, okay, these, like, I got to stay away from these because I know that's going to block my energy and my mental focus, throughout the day. And then sometimes I even, like, when I need rest, right. But I can't shut down my mind. Sometimes then I'll go use those foods of, like, okay, I know if I go eat, this big bowl of pasta, dude, it's going to, make me tired and help me get a great night's sleep. So I might even kind of reverse that at times, but would you say that is, from a mental peak performance state, because all our bodies are so different and how we respond is so different, is, one of the biggest, most important keys is just awareness and journaling and pay attention.
Yeah, I mean, this is a long discussion, and something that we could do if you guys want it, is to go over, how to set up a diet and how to get started down this road. But yeah, anytime that, I'm working with a client, or, like when we advise Josh, or, whatever, even myself, I identify what protein sources work well in me. I identify what carb sources work well in me, what fat sources work well, what foods in general make me feel good, and what foods make me feel bad. And I stay away from the stuff that makes me feel bad. And I use the tools that make me feel good and combine those, depending on how much protein, calories, whatever I'm trying to get for the day. And so I don't know a lot of people that are at a high level, either physically or mentally, that perform, that rely on their bodies to put out, that eat a million different foods. These people, in my experience, myself included, I have a very small base of food that I eat, and those are the foods that I eat probably 90% of the time, because I know what they do and I know how to use them, and I know what the reaction is going to be from my body. So yeah, I think that's right on. Yeah.
Yep. Awesome, dude. All right. So then when it comes to working out, I mean, what specific to mental peak performance? I mean, how important is working out, getting that daily activity, and then even more specifically, then if it does add to it, like, what's the reason behind it? Because there's a lot of different ways to work out, but what's maybe the science behind that allows us to be more mentally clear, if we are consistently working out?
Well, I'm not a study guy where I recite all these studies and the people who put them together and all that, but there is data out there that suggests, or that kind of demonstrates, doing cardio increases blood flow to the brain. That's why there's people throughout history that were great thinkers and, minds of our century. They go on walks to clear their mind. Well, that does a couple of things, and one is blood flow to the brain. Two, I think that, the endorphin release and the way that just working out in general makes you feel is of a great benefit. And chemically, there's a lot of things that happen to make you feel better and make your body operate better. From a longevity standpoint and endurance and stamina, I think it's important. But even if you're not going to work out and lift weights, resistance train, I think it's very important to do cardio or some type of physical activity.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, and just also because we think of mental peak performance, that also is, we got to have ways of reducing and eliminating stress.
Yep.
It's one of the reasons why I love working out every day. Is it's like, dude, if I'm stressed, I go in there, and when I hit the gym hard, dude, like, it helps, manage that stress and relieve a lot of that stress.
That's why I'm not in jail, man. I have rarely walked out of the gym feeling worse than I did walking in. Very rarely. And from a mental standpoint, that for years was how I kind of downloaded my day before I came home, because I've worked some pretty stressful jobs in my life, and I wanted to kind of take all that and get it out before I came home and spread that, toxicity, and sit on the couch and drink a beer and just stew in all of that. So it's always been a very important tool for me. The physical part, but the mental part is really, that's really what got me addicted and why I'm still doing it. Yeah. I think it's essential.
How does, I guess this kind of is retracting back to the first topic, but, so for 2021, I was like, all right, maybe it's because I'm getting close to being 40, that I'm like, man, I gotta level up on levels that I've never leveled up before in all aspects of my life. And as I'm setting these new goals for myself, and I'm like, dude, like, okay, what are the habits I need to eliminate and remove from my life to allow this to happen, right? And going into 2021, this is about November, I was like, all right, dude, like, I know I need to just remove alcohol. I mean, it just doesn't serve me. It bogs me down mentally. Even if I used to be, in our 20s or whatever, we could go drink a case and wake up in the morning. But like now, dude, like shit, if I have, I don't know, 2 IPAs the night before, like I wake up, my brain's foggy. I don't, so, but I haven't had a sip of alcohol since, it's been since November 1st now or whatever. So, that's about 7 months. And dude, it just, that little change, man. Like I wake up every day and I'm also eating cleaner than I have in a lot of years or probably ever for this long length of a time. I'm doing all these other things that we're talking about and the things that you mentor and coach me on, but also by eliminating alcohol. I wake up every morning, dude. I feel fresh. I have energy. I feel mentally clear. Because I know, dude, that's it. That's a scapegoat for a lot of us, especially all shit that we just went through with COVID and all this crap that we've been, this last 18 months has been a wild ride for all of us. And a lot of people's go-to is, I'm going to go have a drink. I need to relax when I go have a drink. How does alcohol impact mental peak performance?
Well, I can only speak from personal experience, and it's kind of similar to yours. I'm 50 next month, and man, if I'm not in bed at a certain time and I'm not eating the right foods or I drank, it has a huge impact on me. I mean, I have a whiskey, bottles up in my cabinet that friends have gotten me for birthdays or whatever from, or congratulations from work or whatever that I've had going on 5 years, and I just don't drink it. If I have a little bit of whiskey, it doesn't relax me. It kind of it energizes me and ruins my sleep for the night almost. I can get away with like a Truly every now and then or something like that, like one of those hard seltzers. But even two of them mess me up. So I think the more high performance or higher tuned that you are, and especially if you're getting up there 30s and 40s and 50s, I don't think you can get away with it. I don't operate as well when I'm on it. And certainly, being drunk, I can't imagine the next day. I wouldn't. It would have such a bad impact on me. I don't know. And I've talked to a lot of people that have gotten older, and alcohol just affects them really negatively. And so that would be my proof that it really affected me when I was young too. I just kind of powered through it. But yeah, I don't understand. I guess some people feel relaxed from it, but I don't. It's not something that I would want to come home and do.
Yeah. What's crazy now, dude, is now that I've been eating clean for so long, like I haven't had a sweet or a piece of like any, for 6-7 months,
Right.
This long consistently eating this clean in my life. And, even if it's clean foods, but not the best food, like, dude, I almost feel hungover. Like even if I have, some organic cleaner sources of pasta, but I still, it's crazy how the body adapts to all of that.
Well, it's just like you're running 93 octane in your car and you're tuned to that. You tune the car to run on that higher octane, and then you put some shit, from your lawnmower 87's got water in it. You just that fuel, man, your body's not going to work the same. It doesn't, especially if you're operating at a higher level. You have to, in my opinion, I don't know how else to do it without eating that way. Yep. I really don't.
All right, so we'll jump. We got 2 more topics to cover, and we'll jump into these a little bit. I think these are probably a little less to cover, so we'll be quicker on these. And then got a bunch of questions that you guys have that we'll jump into. And if you guys have any questions, in regards to this topic, mental and physical peak performance, and really around that energy, right? Like what we can intentionally do to go out there and increase our mental energy and our focus, which is more important. Enemy number one for all of us today, guys, is distractions. Right, like we gotta go out there and be intentional to combat these. And we'll jump into Q&A and take any questions that you guys have here. All right, so next thing is supplements, man. There are lots of different supplements out there, but specifically, those that are important for mental focus, mental energy, mental focus. What are kind of some of your go-to top recommended supplements?
Other than the ones that we made, first and foremost, I use an electrolyte supplement, and I do that to ensure that I'm in a hydrated level. When I'm not hydrated, my workout suffers greatly, and I know I mentally I'm just not the same. And so I use a mineral supplement, and I also use an electrolyte supplement. There's a lot of them on the market. And then, like I said, you can kind of cover yourself with an electrolyte if you do like lime juice or lemon juice with a pint of water first thing in the morning and a little bit of sodium added to it. You can do that. I think, I think an additional protein source for me helps out energy wise and mental wise. I don't have to eat a full meal, and I can get kind of a liquid shot, be satisfied and not thinking about that and able to perform and operate. But minerals and electrolyte is probably my number one pick.
I hear a lot about like omega-3s being, good for the brain. I mean, I started taking omega-3s a long time ago I got really bad dry eyes. I've got like titanium, implants in my tear ducts to keep the tears on there. And I got to go through a yearly procedure on my eyeballs, but I have this dry eye issue, right? So, but one of the things that helps with that is omega-3s. So I take a strong dose of that every day. But when I look at that package, man, there's and I research it, there's a lot that it looks like to overall brain health. Is that something too? I mean, is it just overall brain health, but not necessarily focus?
Well, it really depends. If you're deficient in it, it's going to make a difference. If you're not, I don't know if you're going to notice it. We had one of my sons had ADD, and instead of throwing him on medication, we tried everything. We found a couple things. Red dye was very detrimental to him, and if we gave him a high DHA EPA supplement, omega-3 containing supplement, it worked really well. That, and combined with some strategies at school, we were able to keep him off of drugs. And I think, especially for a newborn or developing fetus, those nutrients are essential in brain health, and there's a lot of data that supports that. For me, I don't know if I notice a difference from taking it or not, but I believe in it, and I don't want to be deficient in it, so I do. For you can notice something, with your eyes within hydration, or, maybe it's production of oil, whatever. And that's good. But I don't know mentally, I take it because I believe in it and I don't want to be deficient in it, but I don't really notice it per se. We had a question about creatine, and creatine's probably the other one, a non-stimulant nootropic that, I take it for a multitude of reasons, but I even have my father taking it at 73, and I recommend that everybody takes creatine. Powerful nootropic product, and overall health. I think it's a great product.
Now, for those that, I've read studies before of like, dude, if you, eat a certain amount of red meat in your diet, you don't need a supplement with creatine. I've also heard kind of mixed, theories or philosophies on that. What's your take on that? If somebody's maybe like, oh, I don't need it, I eat a lot, I eat a serving of red meat every day, should everybody be supplementing with it? And
I think everybody should be supplementing with it. If you take it and you notice it in your workout the next day, definitely you're not somebody who naturally holds a high level of it, and or you're not eating enough. Genetically, we hold different levels of creatine, so you might be a high level, or somebody who has a high level naturally, or somebody who has a lower level. And if you respond to supplemental creatine, then you have a lower level. People who say, "Well, I eat meat." Yeah, you're gonna get creatine from meat, but if you're taking a 3 gram or 3 to 5 gram dose daily, which is recommended dosage for almost everybody, that's 3 to 5 pounds of red meat a day, not fatty meat. 3 to 5 pounds of lean, just tissue red meat, and so it's hard to consume enough. Does that mean you're deficient? You're gonna have problems with it? Probably not, but if you want to get the benefits of having enough and being saturated in creatine enough to notice a difference, you're probably going to have to supplement with it.
Yeah, and you can't like take too much with creatine, right? It's one of those things that your body doesn't use, you get rid of, or is there an overdoing it?
You will definitely know if you take too much as you run to the bathroom at the gym and cause a scene. But that typically is in the 20 to 25 gram range. And a long time ago, which I think was created by supplement companies, they recommended this loading phase where you loaded, up on it. And I think that's complete BS. All you need to do is take the small spoon, and have it flat or heaping. That's 3 to 5 grams or even less. Start with 2. I don't care. I put it in my coffee. It's all first thing in the morning, and I'm done with it. But I cycled off of it a few months ago. It's probably 6 months ago for some blood work. Because it can throw off blood work. Long story. Anyway, went back on it, and just the amount of stamina that I had in the gym was insane. And it just reminds me, not to go off creatine.
Yeah. What's the, and I know this could be a whole nother topic on just this stuff, or a whole nother episode, but what's the main thing that it's doing? Is it, is it forcing
kind of helps you
water into the muscle cells, or
kind of helps you upcycle ATP.
Okay.
And so, if you're in an anaerobic condition, that helps. That'll equate to a few more reps. When you get a few more reps during whatever set that you would normally fail at. Nootropically, I'd have to review that whole mechanism again. It's a long story, and I don't know if they have it definitive why it has an effect. But there's been a lot of study and tests on creatine with patients in dementia and older patients, and it's been favorable. And a long time ago, one of the best nootropics on the market, it came and had 24 or 25 ingredients in it, and you got a 5-gram dose of creatine with it, and that was one of the best nootropics at the time for sure. It was groundbreaking.
Yeah. So then in ATP, if I remember correctly, that's produced by the mitochondria in the cell, and that's how we get our energy. I mean, it's ATP is the chemical that's released by the mitochondria that really gives us our energy. Is that correct?
Yeah. I mean, long story short, it's kind of a battery for your cell, and it downregulates and upregulates. And there's a couple cofactors in that, if I remember correctly. And creatine helps you upregulate it and turn ADP back into ATP. And keep the battery utilization, or keep your cell battery full or able to use.
Yeah. All right. The last thing on supplements is specific nootropics. I know you mentioned creatine has a nootropic component to it, but then there's specific nootropics. A lot of shit ones out there. There's some good ones out there. But I know that you've also formulated your own as well that we sell at forgelife.com. But what just kind of give us the quick down low on like what role does nootropics play when it comes to mental focus? What does that look like?
Well, I think, 2 parts. So one of the new things that we have is a choline supplement. And that's if you have adequate amounts of choline from your diet, you probably won't notice it as much. If you don't, then you're really going to notice it. And ours is a combination of 2 different ways to increase that amount of acetylcholine and choline in your brain. And it also has an enzyme that helps slow down the downregulation of that in your brain. And I find that taking that with any type of stimulant, or even if I'm feeling tired, helps me operate better because I don't have a high choline diet. Combined with any type of stimulant, I think it really makes the ride better and helps you come down a lot softer without a crash. Plus, we could go down, if you ever go listen to the Huberman Lab story, the way that your brain learns, and that whole process is very complicated. But one of the things that your brain has to have to learn is acetylcholine. And although it's not really known that taking acetylcholine and raising the level overall in your brain helps getting acetylcholine to the specific part of your brain that it has to be there to be present in learning and make learning efficient. I'm taking it because I think it's definitely not going to hurt. And I notice a difference with it. So having adequate choline levels, no matter how you get there, whether it's our product, a different product, or just through your diet, I think is very important. And that's definitely a component of nootropic. And then the one that we put together, Zone, we have a stimulant portion of that, which is a non-caffeine stimulant. It's called teacrine. And I find that that's very stimulating. We have 2 different types in there, a fast acting and a slower acting. So you have a sustained release. You get a nice hit in the beginning, and it's supposed to last 3-4 hours. And then we have 2 herbs that are in almost every nootropic that I think you'll find beneficial even if you take on your own. That's Bacopa monnieri and rhodiola. We have high standardizations in ours, which make ours different from other formulas. And then we have a specialized magnesium and acetyl tyrosine.
Yeah. Yeah.
In combination, I think it's a good nootropic. It's still not only my favorite, but it's one of the ones that I take and I feel. And I don't down regulate on the teacrine, meaning if I find that three capsules is stimulating, I don't build a tolerance to it. And of course, I don't recommend that you use any stimulant every day.
Yeah. And look, I mean, myself and most that probably watching this don't have your knowledge base, and your expertise when it comes to this. And I mean, you're a formulator, and you have devoted your life to knowing this stuff at such a deep level. But the way I look at it, when people ask me what a nootropic is, I'm like, all right, you take like a good pre-workout before you go work out, and it helps enhance your workout. Well, a nootropic is that for times where you need that mental focus. So, for me is business owner, entrepreneur, like, dude, I mean, this is the, if you got, I don't know, a baseball pitcher, like that needs, their arm, a quarterback, their arm's extremely important to them. That's their, that to go out there and that's their, I don't know, muscle or whatever for their craft, in the business or really work world for most of us. Dude, it's this, right? So it's like, I want that edge of being out there. So it's that, that pre-workout that allows me to have a better, more intense workout. Well, that's what I look at as nootropic as. And that's what, I take Zone twice a day, every single day to last me throughout my work day to be able to have, I guess, that upper edge of clarity, focus, minimize brain fog, allow me to strategically think at a higher level and so forth. Do you think that's a good analogy?
That's an excellent analogy. I mean, when I'm trying to crush, the most time that I use it is a day that I absolutely have to be on. Like I have a huge presentation, whatever, very important customer meeting, and I have information to relay, or, more likely I'm trying to crush a big amount of information and get it inside and able to understand it and then relay it and repeat it and use it and apply it. And for me, that's always, it's a specific way that I set that up. It's a specific desk that I use. I clear my desk off, all this stuff. And I take my nootropic, definitely. Maybe even a little nicotine on top of that. And, that's kind of the best schedule that I found out, or the best combo of products and stuff.
Awesome, man. Awesome. Well, I know we were going to talk about actions as well, but let's jump into some of these questions, man, because I want to make sure we get to these. I know we're going long on time here, and we might save actions for another part 2 of this, or if we have time at the end, we can maybe hit in those. Any questions that you guys have, whether it's related to what we're talking about today or not, when it comes to anything physical, mental, peak performance, we're here to give you our 2 cents. All right, so we'll go back to Pierre's question that I pulled up that I thought was in regards to fasting. But I don't even necessarily know what this means, so I'm going to let you just run with it.
All right, so I'm assuming you're talking about upper body, lower body split 6 days a week, too intense for a fast recovering 17-year-old. So my rule of thumb is if your muscle is sore, do not work it. And then so upper and lower would be fine day after day. However, I would want to increase his workload, volume, or progressive overload, meaning keep upping the weight until you are sore. This person is sore the next day, maybe 2 days out, and then I would stretch out that cycle. So upper body sore after lower, take another day off until it isn't, then hit cycle again.
Yeah, love it. All right, let's see here. Q says, finally got to catch you guys live. This episode definitely hit me hard. Thank you. You got it. Curtis Fisher, great to see you both. 100%, my friend. All right, so let's see what we got here. So Pierre asks, which we already hit on this, but is creatine a good supplement? So 100%. Any dude, is creatine monohydrate just creatine monohydrate, or is there better, worse?
Creatine monohydrate is all you need. Doesn't really matter. There's hardly, I don't think there's real fake creatine supplements anymore. I mean, 20 years ago, that was a concern. Just buy a brand name, and monohydrate's all you need.
Yep. Love it. All right. Looks like we got one other question in here. Last 3 weeks, I've been fasting for 18 hours. I know you guys can see this that are watching this on video, but we're going to be releasing this on the podcast audio too. So they won't be able to see this. So I'm going to read it. Last 3 weeks, I've been fasting 18 hours, eating clean 6 hours, 5 days a week only, lemon water early morning. Normally I do 16 to 8. So I'm guessing 16-hour fast, 8-hour eating window, but wanted to lean up. Got to 150 pounds. I'm 158 years old. Love the mental clarity and physical benefits. I don't know if that's really a statement or question.
No, that's amazing, man. I would just make sure that you add some salt to that lemon water early morning. That'll help you out. I'm sure you know about that, but that's great, man.
Yeah, I was reading. Have you read TB12, Tom Brady's book?
No.
So I was reading it, and it's I mean, a lot of it is he now has his own supplement company. He's got his own shit, dude. Like he has his own everything now company, right? But one of the things in there that they said that I thought was really fascinating is because of just the way that our bodies have adapted to whether you want to call it environment or whatever, with certain ingredients being stripped out of our food sources and things that are being added to our water, whatever, that our bodies just don't retain. Like you can be chugging this water all day, and the analogy that they give in there is like, imagine you have like an umbrella or a raincoat on your cells, and it's hard for them to be absorbed with how our bodies and our cells have adapted, with the environment that we're in, and so forth today, that to get enough water in those cells properly, to hydrate properly, like and some type of an electrolyte is almost a must. I mean, the way that they framed it, maybe it's because they're selling electrolyte product. I don't know fully true or not, but it was like, look, if you can just slam as much of this you want all day long, but like you think you're drinking a gallon, but you're definitely not, retaining that gallon. Let's just say it's is there truth to that? Is that why electrolytes are so important? Because it forces that water into the cells?
I'll go with that. I don't know about us, evolving so that we don't absorb that correctly. I think the underlying problem is, the food sources that we eat are very deficient, and they contain less mineralization. Well, not mineralization, but less minerals than they did previously. Maybe 50, 60, I don't know, maybe as little as 20 years ago. Definitely less than for, I don't know, 10, 20, 30 years ago, for sure, just because of the nutrients in the ground. Does that mean we have to supplement them? Probably. Is it more out of an effect that we're not eating complete foods that contain all of those? Probably that too. I mean, almost everybody's deficient in potassium for some source, but I mean, that's why I use an electrolyte supplement. It's to make sure. I don't have to think about it, but I know if I'm holding water for some reason, as soon as I crush some potassium, then it kind of equals out. I drop the water immediately because I don't eat, right now I'm not eating a lot of potassium containing foods. That's why, a lot of people that drink coconut water, if it's one of the coconut waters that has a high amount of potassium in it, you feel hydrated immediately. But yeah, I mean, I think that electrolyte supplement is probably pretty important. It definitely helps you get hydrated at a faster rate than just drinking water.
Perfect. Man. Well, we don't have any other questions in at this time, so let's just hit on that last topic, dude, and then wrap this bad boy up for the day. So when it looks at actions, so what I mean by actions is like intentional activities that you do or can take that help that mental peak performance, increase mental focus, if you will. I mean, are there certain things that you do throughout the day or that you found as far as, best practices to stay focused on what you need to stay focused on and help with that?
Yeah, if I'm working on a task, I mean, you touched on this earlier. I do not have my phone next to my computer. It's turned off. Maybe some music in the background, but that's about it. My desk has to be clean. I have to be at a clean desk with nothing on it. And then if it's a very difficult subject or something that's very mentally tasking, I have to take breaks. So I'll work for 15 minutes and, take 5 off, a little bit longer, walk around, clear my mind, and go back. And I'll do that in intervals so that I stay at that kind of edge where I need to be. And for me, that's the way, I learned how to do that in college, and I actually had some help to figure that out. And it's been something that I've used ever since.
Yeah. I mean, guys, like removing distractions, as I mentioned, like, distractions are enemy number one for really all of us. And it's so easy, to give in to, like, we got to be very intentional with this, and we got to set our environments up to win, so like removing notifications off of your devices, removing notifications off your computer, so you can have that. Because the comment I get from people, almost daily is I just can't stay focused, man. I can't, right? I'm like, well, dude, if you got this thing over here that's beeping and alerting every 20 seconds when somebody likes one of your, posts, yeah, like you're creating that distraction. We're conditioned. If you look at now, this could be, going down the, I don't know, conspiracy theory route, whatever you want to say, but the little bit of research that I've done with the, modern day school system, that we adopt back in the late 1800s, the Prussian school system, it was the reason of the bell, right? The school bell is to create that when we hear that, right? It ought to, like we're taught of no matter how deep you are in this project, that bell goes off, you stop, and then boom, you go to the next thing, right? So those alerts kind of do that same thing after 18, 20 plus years of your life or however long you were in school, whether you went on to, college and so forth, that's taking place, right? So, removing those, eliminating those, time blocking is huge. One of the things that NASA's done a lot of research and study on this, but it's been found that the human mind can only stay mentally focused. Now it's going to be different for everybody, but for the average person, you can stay fully focused for 90 straight minutes before that focus starts to deviate, to start to diminish, and then it takes about 60 minutes to fully recover from that. So if you think of this like working out, let's just say I'm squatting and okay, well, I can get 12 reps in and that's, I get to failure and I hit failure. Well, I rack that and I'm going to take a minute or so break. And then I go back in and try to get another, 12, right? So we as something I've been following for years, that's made a massive difference. And I get, staff, team to follow it and so forth, as well as our 90-60s, right? So we'll set 90-minute time blocks. Those are going to be our most important key performance indicators in our business that lead, move that needle forward. So your money-making activities, let's just say. And then our 60 minutes, and we'll set an alarm, 60 minutes. When that alarm goes off, then boom, we will then get into allowed interruption, still essential activities, but that we're maybe more reactive. That's when we're checking emails. That's when we're checking text message. That's when we're, doing follow-ups. But that 90 minutes is non-allowed interruption, almost like like think your phone on airplane mode where nothing's coming in, and just following that based on how the mind works. Then that's also, if you think of that, if I go try to get 8 straight hours of complete mental focus, just like the body may be overtraining if you're doing too much in the gym, right? It helps reset those, right? So that's probably one of the greatest hacks or piece of advice I could give you guys and whether it's 90-60s and look, there's some of the people that work inside my organization that are like, that's too intense, right? They find it better to do like 60s, 30s, right? But, figuring out what that mental sprint is that you can take, and then take a pause, right? Let that brain replenish. And if you do that throughout the day, you end up getting so much more done than if you just try to grind through and push through it.
Yeah, I mean, just to add to that, I mean, if my attention is diluted in any fashion, like if I'm writing an email for a customer, I won't answer the phone. I don't have any tabs open, nothing. Everything that I'm doing is fully engaged in that at the moment. And when I'm done, then I can do those other things. But, when I'm doing interfacing with something that's important, like customer interface, whatever, there's nothing else that can interrupt me until that task is done. And that's something I get that 90-60. That's a great plan, man. I think that's super effective.
Yep. Yeah, it's been powerful. So you guys that were here watching live with us or that were here live or that stayed with us through here, we truly appreciate you guys being here. We are going to be doing this every single Wednesday at 2:30 p.m. Pacific time. So we're going to keep showing up every single week consistently at this time, doing these live. And again, we're going to be discussing different topics on anything and everything when it comes to mental and physical peak performance. So, jump on, say hi, bring with your questions. If you guys have different questions, we're happy to answer any questions that you guys have. But thank you for being here. Oh, real quick, make sure to check out forgelife.com. As Jim talked about with the different nootropics, we have 3 supplements on there currently. We have our overall nootropic zone. We have a supplement called Flow, which is what Jim alluded to as far as that will help enhance and lengthen really the length of different stimulants that you might be taking, whether it's caffeine or whatever that may be, or even a nootropic, but then also minimizes the crash, right? So it just can help enhance those. And then we have a new product out called Care, which is for eye health. And we'll probably have another episode on that, but it's, all this blue light damage, dude, that we're out there. You can wear your blue light blocker, your glasses, but that's only going to block so much. Everywhere you go, man, there's blue light exposure. It's damaging cornea tissue. There's a lot of negative impact on it. And this supplement actually helps regrow that, it repairs that damage, if you will. So check out Forj Life, Forj life.com. And you can learn more about those supplements. We also have some great blogs on there, the great content for you guys on there to check out. So, Jim, appreciate your time, dude. Appreciate you being here, my man. And you guys,
it's good to be back.
Yeah, 100%, dude. Thank you guys for being here. We'll check you out next time. Peace.